Okay, boys, this is the game we're going to make. It's an old school Space Invaders game. If I run the game, you can see I've got my aliens up here. I've got my controls here. It's a bit hard to play with only the mouse and the simulator. Shoot through here, and I can shoot the aliens. I get hit and I die. Score goes up 10 points per alien. They get faster as they come down, obviously. At this stage, I haven't added a game over, and if they get low enough, it's going to end up kind of crashing. But that's something you can add on when you get there. So, let's have a look what we've got in supplied. Alright, in the file that you would have downloaded off MyCol, you'll see in the root directory there are 5 files. I'll just go through those 5 now. Alright, so if we look at the config.lua, I've actually configured the width and the height to be used on an iPad. I intended this to be an iPad game, not an iPhone game. So when you're viewing it, if you can change this if you want. It'll scale automatically anyway, but it'll look best in an iPad. Here's the main I provided you. You won't have to do anything to this file. All we're doing here, this first green bit here says that I made it in a program called Outlaw. It's just an editing environment. Turn the status bar off. I'm requiring the widget. That'll be true throughout the whole thing. I'm requiring the storyboard, which you should have encountered before if you did that scrolling shoot 'em up game. I'm loading the physics game. I'm starting the physics engine, setting the gravity to 0 because we need physics on, and we're going to have these are all dynamic physics objects because we need them to have collisions, but we don't want them to fall off the screen. So I'm setting the gravity as 0 and 0, and then we load the first storyboard scene. Alright, this is the first storyboard scene I've provided. Okay, there's a couple of changes from the standard scene, standard storyboard file. I got these changes from a tutorial I found online. Here's the tutorial here. It's made by this guy, Umid, sorry. And if you do a Google on this, you should find this. If you want to have a look through, it's fine. He goes through how he'd handle some more advanced features of object-oriented programming, such as inheritance and polymorphism. We don't have to worry about that. It's quite complex, his tutorial. I've simplified it down. I've basically taken the bits I thought were good. Oh, it's all good. He's better at it than I am. But I've taken out the bits I thought were useful for us in class and discarded the rest, so to speak. So, yeah. Anyway, going back to the file. At the top, the original storyboard files, this would say local scene equals storyboard.new scene. I've just changed that to storyboard file because I want to use scene down here, and it's not local. We're going to use scene throughout our objects. You'll see why as we do programming. It's not local, but that doesn't really matter because whenever you change scenes, the scene is automatically nilled out anyway through the exit scene and the destroy scene. So it's global within this context, so to speak. As soon as we change onto level 2, everything will be unloaded and we can load in level 2. So as far as memory management goes, it's not a problem. Alright, moving down the file here. Oh, there's a mistake there. That should say scene. And that should say scene. Is that everything? Yeah. Moving down in the enter scene, all this is doing here is defining the scene again. Probably don't have to do that actually because it's global there. Not sure about that. We're not doing anything in the enter scene anyway. So, Alright, this says last scene equals previous scene, and it says if the last scene exists, then delete it. This is just for memory management. So if you use this for level 2, it would make sure that level 1 was completely unloaded before it did level 2. Just when you're working on a device with limited memory, especially if you're doing Android when there's so many different variations in there and some of them have limited memory capacity, it's good to make sure the previous scene is completely unloaded before you continue on with this scene. You don't want the app crashing because it's ran out of memory. And that's about it for the storyboard file. Alright, in that directory you'll also see I've got an assets directory which has only got 2 pictures in it. I've got the enemy PNG file, which is just this, and in the same directory there is also a right arrow. These are PNG files because if we had them as JPEG they can't have transparent backgrounds. We want a transparent background. You'll also find there's a classes folder. In the classes folder there's a bunch of files. These are the files we're going to use. There's nothing really in them except for a brief comment at the top of each one. So if I open up just one here, oops, I'll have to open that up in here. If I open up there, there's just a comment at the top of it. In the enemy one, I've given you a bit more information. This is how we're going to structure all of our files from here on in. I've simplified it down from the balloons example you had. So we're making a new class called enemy. We're making a table to contain that enemy. We're assigning it the meta table. At the top here we're saying local scene equals scene. That's so we have access to the scene variable that we define in the storyboard. Alright, our new function won't change other than this and this. We're going to keep this exactly the same in every single file. So actually every file you make you can basically copy this and paste it in. Not a problem. So our new function, all we've got there is enemy and enemy meta table. So all the constructor is going to do is create the class. We're not going to add anything here to assign variables because I think that got a little bit confusing. All the variables we're going to assign, we're going to do in the init, the initializer. That's where we add any variables. If we want to add any pictures or anything like that, will be done down here. And then if we need to start any listeners, anything that's going to happen as the object moves or the instance moves or works, will be done in the start. So we've got 3 separate things. The new creates the class, init initializes any values, and starts the class doing what it's supposed to be doing. And that's about it. Those are the files I've given you. In the next video I'll go over how to start building the enemy class.